It's a happy homecoming in Nigeria as President Muhammadu Buhari welcomes back 82 Chibok schoolgirls after 3 years in captivity. Controversy brews over a century-old African-American burial site just outside the U.S. Capitol. And another remarkable performance by a Kenyan marathon runner sets a world record. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidu. You are in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Tonight we begin with a long-awaited and much-anticipated homecoming of abducted Chibok schoolgirls. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari met with 82 schoolgirls released by the Boko Haram terrorist group in Abuja Sunday evening, just over 1 day after their release. They are from the original group of 276 abducted 3 years ago from their school in northeastern Borno State. VOA's Latza Hoke has more on the happy occasion.
The 82 girls were handed over Saturday after lengthy negotiations to exchange them for suspected Boko Haram members. President Buhari postponed the trip to London for medical consultations in order to welcome the girls.
On behalf of all Nigerians, I'd like to share my joy with you, your parents, your relatives, friends, and the government of Borno State on regaining your freedom.
The released girls were brought by convoy to a military base in Banki near the border with Cameroon. They were flown to Abuja after a medical checkup. A representative of the president met them at the airport.
Welcome our girls, welcome our sisters. We're happy to have you back. We're very glad that you are back. And every Nigerian today must be forgetting every other hardship is suffering because it is a very joyous moment. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
One of the girls had a broken arm and another an injured leg. They all looked tired.
The girls that have returned, the life in captivity has been one that depicts suffering. It depicts the fact that they've been stabbed, they've been abused. As we've seen before, some of those girls have come back with children. Some of them have also come back, with news of how they have been sexually abused.
Close to 300 girls were kidnapped in April of 2014 by the Islamist group, but dozens managed to escape into the forest before the abductors took them to their camp. The brazen abduction of teenage girls sparked outrage around the world. Parents and activists formed groups to press Nigeria's government for more action to free them from captivity. About 20 were released last October.
Each and every one of our 113 girls now in captivity have to be accounted for, and that's so the struggle continues. But for today, we are so happy that we have gotten 82. So in total, we have 106 that have been rescued, and we continue making demands for them until each and every one of them is brought back home.
Boko Haram has killed an estimated 15,000 people and displaced more than 2 million during the 7-year insurgency aimed at creating an Islamist caliphate in northeastern Nigeria. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
And shortly after meeting with the released Chibok girls, President Buhari flew to London late Sunday for a follow-up medical consultation with his doctors. A statement from presidential spokesman Femi Adesina said the president had planned to leave Sunday afternoon, but delayed his departure in order to welcome the freed girls. The statement also says the length of Buhari's stay in London will be determined by the doctors, and the government will continue to function normally under the able leadership of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Buhari returned to work in March after a 7-week leave for medical treatment in London. He has not disclosed the nature of his illness. Tanzania is mourning the death of 32 school children, 2 teachers and a minibus driver who were killed when their vehicle plunged into a roadside ravine in the northern tourist region of Arusha on Saturday. The Arusha Regional Police Commander says the accident occurred when the bus descended a steep hill in rainy conditions. The children killed in the accident were from the Karatu district and were ages 12 and 13. The students were on their way to visit another school. Tanzania has a poor road safety network, but buses remain the main form of public transportation between towns. According to government data, more than 11,000 people were killed in road accidents in Tanzania between 2014 and 2016. Now to Europe, where voters in France have elected pro-EU centrist Emmanuel Macron as the country's new president, rejecting the anti-EU, anti-immigrant policies of nationalist Marine Le Pen. Initial results released immediately after polls closed Sunday showed Macron won 65% support compared to 34.5% for Le Pen. VOA Europe correspondent Luis Ramirez reports from Paris.
The former banker and economy minister becomes at 39 France's youngest president. He ran as an independent, and the pressure is on him to make a fresh start for a divided country.
Dear fellow citizens, a new page of our long history is turning tonight. I want it to be a page of hope and renewed trust. The renewal of our political life will begin as early as tomorrow. The moralization of our political life, acknowledging its plurality and our democratic vitality, will be at the heart of my action from day one.
Le socle de mon action. In the main courtyard of the Louvre in Paris, there were expressions of relief at Macron's victory party.
I feared Marine Le Pen because she sowed division in this country. That is why I had no choice but to support Emmanuel Macron.
With the sensitive issues of jobs, terrorism, and France's Muslim minority at the forefront, the campaign exposed differences in a country traditionally proud of its openness. This was an ugly campaign, the most aggressive in memory for many voters, and one that stoked fears of a brush with fascism.
I do not agree with Macron, with his policies, but at least I know that under him I will still have the ability to go to the streets and express myself and demonstrate.
From Marine Le Pen, a quick concession. She urged supporters to press on.
I call on all patriots to join us to take part in the decisive political fight that is starting tonight. More than ever in the forthcoming months, France will need you.
French officials say 4 million abstained. But the Paris rain did not stop voters from lining up early in the city's 12th district at a school where a plaque remembers 15 Jewish children who were hauled off to Nazi death camps.
The majority of the French people are afraid of Marine Le Pen and are afraid of the far right and know that her National Front is not prepared to exercise power. If they get to power, they will grow divisions in French society in a very dangerous way with the risk of violence. So in a reasonable way, the French voted Macron against Marine Le Pen.
This was a historic vote, the first time in the modern republic that traditional parties were shut out of a presidential race. French voters opted for careful change, not revolution. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, Paris.
World leaders quickly congratulated Emmanuel Macron on his victory over Marine Le Pen. U.S. President Donald Trump took to Twitter to congratulate Macron on his win, saying, quote, "I look much forward to working with him." President Trump had not publicly endorsed either candidate ahead of the election, but let it known that generally favored Marine Le Pen's views. Former U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, American civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, and New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, among others, all congratulated Macron and the people of France for the presidential election result. Macron is the youngest French leader since the Emperor Napoleon. He will take office on May 14th. Here in the United States, the Senate is beginning work on an issue that shifted control of Congress in 2010 and could do so again next year: America's costly and complex healthcare system. VOA's Michael Bowman reports the House of Representatives passed a Republican bill repealing former President Obama's healthcare law, but the bill faces major hurdles moving forward.
It was passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
House Republicans made good on a 7-year promise, repealing and replacing Obamacare, then celebrated at the White House.
This is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better.
The devil really is in the details.
But the House bill is dead on arrival at the Senate, according to key Republicans and Democrats alike.
The House bill is not going to come before us. The Senate is starting from scratch. We're going to draft our own bill, and I'm convinced that we're going to take the time to do it right.
Trump care will never see the light of day.
It will never be signed into law. And then we will work to improve health care by keeping Obamacare and making it even better.
But with healthcare premiums continuing to rise and insurers ending coverage in many states, Obamacare cannot be saved, according to conservative Republicans in both houses of Congress.
What good is Obamacare for anybody, let alone a person with pre-existing conditions, if you don't have a health insurance plan that you can even get?
You don't care about working people, and this bill proves it.
Democrats counter that, whatever Obamacare's flaws, the House Republican plan would be worse and fall short of the president's promise to the American people.
Insurance for everybody at less cost and higher quality. This bill comes nowhere close to that promise.
Some lawmakers are holding out hope for cooperation between Democrats and Republicans.
I would like to see us put together a bipartisan group to solve this problem.
Republicans seized control of the House of Representatives after Obamacare was signed into law in 2010. Now, with Republicans tackling health care reform, Democrats sense political opportunity.
They've been whining for 7 years about the Affordable Care Act. Now let them defend what they did today.
Shame! Shame! Health care accounts for roughly $1 out of $6 spent in America and has long evoked passions and mobilized voters.
Shame on you!
Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Now, former U.S. President Barack Obama says it is his fervent hope that members of Congress are willing to look at the facts and speak the truth, even when it contradicts party positions. America's first African-American president made the comments in Boston Sunday as he accepted the John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award. Obama received the award just days after the House of Representatives approved a bill that would replace the Affordable Care Act, his signature legislative achievement. The former president praised Democratic lawmakers, whom he says acted with courage in voting for the law in 2010, many of whom lost their seats in the face of fierce Republican opposition.
I hope that current members of Congress recall that it actually doesn't take a lot of courage to aid those who are already powerful, already comfortable, already influential. But it does require some courage to champion the vulnerable and the sick and the infirm, those who often have no access to the corridors of power.
Obama did not mention his successor, President Donald Trump, or make any direct reference to Trump's push to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, beyond noting the great debate is not settled. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a closer look at the bitter dispute over an African-American cemetery outside the nation's capital. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
Persian Gulf and Middle Eastern nations have historically suffered from high youth unemployment. Today, the government and business incubators are helping young entrepreneurs like Alia Aidi get ahead. Aidi is the founder of an Arabic-language cooking website, Basmati.
If I didn't have the support of the incubator, the yearly license would have been 15,000 dirhams on a yearly basis.
Public sector jobs in the oil industry dominate the Gulf region, but technology is changing the employment landscape. Online retailer Souq.com was bought by Amazon for $1 billion. Another startup, Careem, now competes with Uber. Essa Al-Zabi is with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and says startups are gaining ground.
And it has been given extra attention and extra focus because they will be the future of any growing economies.
But entrepreneurs in the region say they need more access to credit, and hiring qualified people is still a challenge. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
A multi-million-dollar development project outside Washington, D.C. has been put on hold pending an archaeological investigation to determine if the project is being built on top of a historically significant 100-year-old black cemetery. VOA's Chris Simpkins reports from Bethesda, Maryland, that a fight over the burial site has uncovered the history of a mostly forgotten African-American community.
Back up there where you can't see is basically where we're saying some of the bodies are.
Harvey Matthews says this land outside Washington was a cemetery where African Americans were buried starting in the early 19th century.
Did you all move the bodies? No one has answered that question yet. So if you didn't move the bodies, as far as I'm concerned, they're still over in them clay hills where y'all done built all this construction and you done covered them up.
Matthews is talking about developers who built this tower in the late 1960s. He says construction projects covered over African Americans' remains while further wiping away a century-old black community founded by freed slaves.
Okay, right here is the 2 sycamore trees that my mom, my dad, and I, we planted when I was about 9.
The trees near this shopping center are all that remains of Harvey Matthews' family farm. He grew up here alongside generations of other black families who had lived and worked in the area since the end of the Civil War.
And the community of River Road was just like any ordinary community, I guess, nationwide. Happy-go-lucky, little black community.
Now known as the Westbard neighborhood in Bethesda, Maryland, it's filled with shopping centers and high-priced homes. Matthews says the black community began to fade away in the late 1950s.
What led to us moving where developers came in to try to get the land from the blacks that were living here. They use all kinds of little tactics, to get your land. And as you see, the community started getting smaller and smaller. People started moving away.
This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Plans for a new parking garage on the burial ground site touched off a firestorm of protest at a local planning board meeting.
I'm going to have to ask you not to disrupt this.
You don't have to ask me anything. How is it possible that the community has been left out of this entire process?
The project is on hold while county officials work with the developer to conduct an investigation. So far, historians aren't able to document what happened to the graves.
We need to get the facts. We need to find out if there are still burial shafts in this location. We need to find out what is below the ground.
These people here have decided that they are so rich and so powerful that they're going to basically just roll over us. And we are here to say that that will not happen.
The last standing building of the former African-American neighborhood is the Macedonia Baptist Church. Its congregation and others in the community want a museum built that will detail the history of the black community that once thrived here. Chris Simpkins, VOA News, Bethesda, Maryland.
In 1971, 24 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier by becoming the first African-American baseball player in the major leagues, the Pittsburgh Pirates made history by fielding the first all-minority team. As VOA's Ken Farabaugh reports, the Pirates continue to break ground for Major League Baseball, now by looking beyond different borders to find new talent for America's pastime.
It is a moment every aspiring baseball player strives for.
Gifton Gope is coming in on the double switch.
That first major league appearance.
This is what you've been working hard for all these years, and this is what you've dreamed for since you were a little kid.
For 27-year-old South African Gifton Gope, the dream came true with the Pittsburgh Pirates April 26th.
My heartbeat was very hard, and it felt like it was beating a little bit out of my chest.
Up against pitcher John Lester of the Chicago Cubs World Series championship team, Ngoepe did more than just step to the plate.
A nation and a ground single into center field for Gift Ngoepe.
He reached first base on a well-placed hit, entering the history books as the first Major League Baseball player born on the African continent, competing in a sport unfamiliar to many in South Africa.
Baseball is not very popular because we compete against 3 other sports, cricket, rugby, and soccer. So, you know, the youth development for baseball is not going to be as strong.
But Gift Ngepe was born to baseball, literally. His mother worked for the South African Randburg Mets Baseball Club, and the family lived in a small apartment near the field.
Literally, I rolled out of bed and I was on first base, and that's how it was for me. I started playing baseball at the age of 3. I was throwing the ball against the wall, and the coach called me over and he was like, "Hey, you got a pretty good arm, why don't you join the team?"
At 18, Ngepe caught the eye of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who offered him a contract that brought him into the organization's minor league system, where he formed a friendship with fellow teammate Josh Bell.
Having the courage to make that first step, say, "Hey, I'm coming over to the States. I'm going to try to learn this game as best I can." And it's incredible.
While Ngepe is the first from Africa, he isn't alone.
Dovydas Neverauskas making his major league debut, the 24-year-old from Lithuania.
Just before his debut, the Pittsburgh Pirates called up Ngepe's minor league teammate, Lithuanian-born pitcher Dovydas Neverauskas from the Indianapolis Indians, prepping him to take on the Chicago Cubs.
Got there during the game and I got to pitch in the game at the same time, so it was like, didn't really have time to think once I got to the field.
Now the first Lithuanian Major League Baseball player, Neverauskas understands the importance of his own historic moment.
Because if I do good, team's going to see there's some potential in Lithuania, and maybe send some people to look more, for more players.
His time with the Pirates lasted just 1 game.
Neverauskas' pitch right down the middle.
Neverauskas now waits for another chance in the minor leagues.
It's tough knowing that as you play today, there's another player and every organization trying to take your spot. I guess it makes it a little bit easier for us to just focus on winning and focus on the now. And I feel like Gift is a perfect example of that.
Gift Ngepe remains with the Pirates for now and is exceeding even his own expectations.
It's been unbelievable for me. The story just keeps on growing bigger.
While Gift writes the next chapter, his younger brother Victor hopes to have his own storybook career. The 19-year-old is following in his brother's footsteps, also securing a contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and plays on a minor league team in Florida where he prepares for his chance to make it to baseball's biggest stage. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Cincinnati, Ohio.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the fastest marathon time ever. Another remarkable performance by a Kenyan runner. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Nigeria, a group of 82 girls held captive for 3 years by Islamist militants meets with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday. We stay in Nigeria, where President Buhari then returns to London for what his office says is a follow-up medical consultation. In Tanzania, dozens of final-year primary school pupils are killed in a bus crash in the northern part of the country, along with 2 teachers and a driver. In Sudan, kidnapped in eastern Chad in March, French hostage Thierry Frazier is freed and arrived Sunday in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. MTV personalities went Hollywood at the channel's Movie and TV Awards. This was the first time the MTV ceremony handed out honors for both television and film, opening the field to small-screen contenders, including streaming service shows. A rare Los Angeles rainstorm had MTV staffers and stars publicists scrambling and improvising to set up a makeshift indoor arrivals carpet, which allowed later arrivals such as Blackish stars Tracy Ellis Ross and Yara Shahid to have their time with the press. Recording artist and NCIS Los Angeles star LL Cool J also found his way to the impromptu arrivals area, as did Empire and Hidden Figures actress Taraj P. Hansen. Next up, not content with nearly 90% of its used bottles and cans being returned for recycling last year, Denmark is aiming to make one of its most popular exports, beer, as environmentally friendly as possible. Experts are busy developing a completely biodegradable beer bottle and breeding crops resistant to the effects of climate change. Key to Denmark's success is reducing waste caused by its beer, is its popular recycling program. Consumers are able to return their used glass, plastic and aluminum drink containers for a small refund. Users also have the option of automatically giving the sum to charity by pressing a button. And finally, a lunar rover, which will hopefully be landing on the moon in a space mission next year, is making a cameo appearance in a Hollywood blockbuster. Alien Covenant will include scenes featuring the PT scientist lunar rover in what is a rare example of a real-life technology featuring in a big-screen sci-fi. PT scientists working in conjunction with car maker Audi developed this lightweight lunar rover to explore the lunar landing site of the Apollo 17 mission. It will be the first privately funded mission to the moon, and that's what's trending today. And in sports news, the world's fastest marathon was run Saturday on a racetrack in Monza, Italy. The event was held on the 63rd anniversary of Englishman Roger Bannister breaking off the 4-minute mile in 1954. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge missed breaking the 2-hour mark, but smashed the official world record by nearly 3 minutes, finishing the challenge in 2 hours and 26 seconds.
My mind fully was under 2 hours, but in the last 2 laps, I was a little bit 10 seconds behind the schedule. And the last lap, I was also a little bit behind the schedule, and a lot was running out of my mind. This journey has been good. It has been hard. It has taken actually 7 good months of preparation, of dedication, and of everything. But I'm happy to have done that, and I think this is history in matters of sport.
Eliud Kipchoge ran 26.2 miles faster than any human ever, completing 17.5 laps around the mile-and-a-half racetrack. The event was held on the 63rd anniversary of Englishman Roger Bannister's breaking of the 4-minute mile in 1954. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and a very good night from Washington.
Signs of fall are everywhere at the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area in northeastern Pennsylvania. National Parks traveler Micah Meyer was glad to take advantage of its many seasonal attractions.
I'm surrounded by native rhododendrons, and come late spring, they will bloom in purple, magenta, and pink colors.
Walkways and bridges guide visitors through a changing landscape of fallen leaves and swollen creeks to the park's